the vision forward and be inspired by it. And as a part of aims and objectives, we organize events here at 𝐒𝐏𝐄𝐒𝐓 Museum throughout the year. We organize a declamation contest in which students from schools across Karachi take part and give talks, and that is held annually. We just had one about a month ago. We also organize talks and events such as this today throughout the year, and Mr. Atif Badr is also here. He had made a wonderful presentation on the 𝐒𝐿-e-Azam, which children loved. It was very entertaining. And today we are delighted and very proud that Mrs. Nasreen Iqbal is here with us. Principles and 𝐒𝐿e-Azam's vision in the way that you teach children, in your lessons, because I think it is absolutely essential, his contributions, so that they are also inspired to follow them. I want to say a few words about Mrs. Nasreen Iqbal. She is a graduate of 𝐒𝐀 College and has a B.Ed degree. She has received training in school administration from Portland State University in Oregon in the USA, and on cultural conflict management across cultures at a school for international training in Vermont in the USA. Mrs. Nasreen Iqbal has been an educator for over 4 decades, and she runs an effective school system called the Grammar School Rawalpindi and Center for Peace, Heritage and Education for Sustainable Development. These organizations are recognized by UNESCO and the British Council as lead educational institutions in Pakistan and South Asia. Mrs. Nasreen Iqbal is a member of the Board of Trustees of DIL, Developments in Literacy, which run high-quality schools across Pakistan for children who can't afford them. These are free schools, and she is a member of the Board of Trustees. She is also a member of the Board of Governors of Lawrence College, Modagali in Murray, and she's a consultant to UNESCO and a lead member of the Associated Schools of UNESCO. She's also an international teacher trainer, and she has been training teachers for the last 20 years. So a warm welcome to you, Mrs. Nasreen Iqbal.
Saturday morning. As I stand here before you all to speak about Jinnah's enduring influence and its relevance for youth today, I feel most honored and privileged to be in 𝐒𝐿e-Azam's museum and standing here. It is indeed a humbling experience for me. I'm deeply grateful to Mr. Liaquat Merchant, the Senior Vice Chairman of the Board of Management of 𝐒𝐿e-Azam. He and I have been in communication since the last 4 years. He was to come. I'd arranged a very good event for him in Rawalpindi, in the Women's University, but then COVID happened. And I'm most grateful to Amina Sayyid. She needs no introduction. Inka naam hi kafi hai. Commodore retired Sadir Malik, the Secretary General of and BON of 𝐒𝐿e-Azam Museum, Iram Fawad, the Secretary. I thank them for giving me the singular opportunity to speak at this prestigious forum. I feel overwhelmed. When I entered it 2 days ago, the first time, I was overwhelmed, let me tell you. And of course, I want to thank the administration, each and every person, from the cleaners to those who've done the electricity arrangement and the setting of chairs. Each one of them needs a thank you. And I extend a very warm welcome to all the teachers, the educators, my fraternity. Because basically, what I hope is that you will get inspired and you will be able to take some of the messages across to your own institutions. And of course, I'm delighted to see so many of my friends who've come here to listen and to support me. Thank you. I can see so many of you. और शनाज तो सबसे पहले आ गई, 9 बजे आ गई, जबकि मेज कुर्सियां तकरीबन हम लोग ठीक कर रहे थे. Kushamji, can we now play the clip, please?
Yes, please. Just a minute.
Relentless efforts to create Pakistan made him known as one of the most important personalities of modern history. Stanley Walcott, an internationally known American historian and a renowned author of books on political and intellectual history of modern times of India and Pakistan. He taught at UCLA, where I visited him in 2002. In a blog, the biography of Jinnah of Pakistan, he says, few individuals alter the course of history. Fewer still modify the map of the world, and hardly anyone can be credited with creating a nation state. Muhammad Ali Jinnah did all three. Thank you, Jinnah. Now, before I go and on to speak more about Quaid-e-Azam, I would like to talk about Dr. Allama Iqbal, our national poet, as it is his birthday today. He was one of the first people who spoke about the two-nation theory, and Quaid-e-Azam was most impressed by Iqbal's philosophy, intellectual and cultural understanding, and of what he wrote on the reconstruction of Islamic thought. Something very simple which he said, which all of us know about and of, is बातें करने से कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता, अमल से जिंदगी बनती है, जन्नत भी जहन्नुम भी, ये खाकी. Now, coming back to Jinnah's influence, if it has to be enduring and relevant, what do we need to do now? We know what crossroads we are on today. We need to know, reflect on, and realign our lives according to the principles Jinnah advocated, and to follow the vision he had, Pakistan and his people, which is us. Now these actually need to be somehow integrated in all school systems, holistically. Recently, there was an interview by Syed Babar Ali, just I think it's a couple of weeks ago that he gave this interview, and two economists had come and they asked him, what did he think of Pakistan and what does he think, which way are we going? So he said, I'm not hopeless. Pakistani young people have a lot of talent, and I am sure that if they are shown the right direction and they're put in the right path, we will be able to overcome everything. So where does the buck now lie? It's in the schools, it's the teachers, the educators. It's we who have to understand and then pass this across to the students. And first and foremost, we have to begin, understand and imbibe those principles, and then show them, role model those. Only then can we pass the baton to our students. We have to inspire both educators and students. Jinnah strongly believed and proved that with faith, unity and discipline, there is nothing worthwhile you cannot achieve. These qualities were the hallmark of Jinnah's life. And because it was so obvious to everybody in the subcontinent how well he displayed all this, that they developed implicit trust in the people, in the Muslims of the subcontinent.
Okay.
The Muslims were dispersed, scattered all over the subcontinent. But Jinnah, because of what he stood for and what he showed and demonstrated, they converged under one flag of AIML, All India Muslim League.
वो इतना यकीन करते थे हर उनके अल्फाज पे that they nodded in agreement. This was the level of trust he enjoyed and his magnetic appeal. Now, this appeal made Beverly Nichols, a British correspondent, remark, Muslims will march to the left, to the right, to the front, to the rear, at his bidding and no one else's. Such was the power of our Qayyad's leadership. Now here there's a personal story. In my parental home, there were 10 children, so my parents had 2 buffaloes, and there was one old sepoy, retired sepoy, and he was working with us. And he often boasted, जी मेरे नाल कोई गल न करे, मैं ते जिन्ना साहब दी तकरीर सुनी है. So I asked him, I said, Baba ji, वो अंग्रेजी च बोलदे सन, तुसां समझ की आए? He said, बीबी, वो जो कुछ कहंदा सी, सच कहंदा सी, ते ठीक कहंदा सी. And so much so, अगर उसकी नाराज़गी होती थी ना अपने कुक के साथ या किसी के साथ कि अच्छा नहीं दिया, whatever, तो he would say, मैं ते नाल हाथ भी नहीं मिलाना, क्योंकि ए हाथ ही had the opportunity कायद आज़म से कहीं मिलाया था. He says, ए हाथ से मैं अपने कायद आज़म नाल मिलाया हुआ है. Now, let us come to Jinnah's demand for a separate homeland for the Muslims. What was his rationale? Initially, as we all know, Jinnah worked for Hindu-Muslim unity from 1913 to 1916. And whatever he did it wholeheartedly. Sarojini Naidu, a friend of his, called him the ambassador of Hindu-Muslim unity. But very soon it dawned on him, he realized that the Hindus would always dominate the Muslims and they would never have a voice. He realized that the outlook of Muslims is fundamentally different from the Hindus. We are different beings, he said. Our names, clothes, food are different. Our economic life, our educational ideas and treatment of women, and we challenge each other at every point of the compass. Look at our attitude to animals. Now, at this point in time, because he was so adamant on asking for a separate homeland, that the British were trying all sorts of ways and means to dissuade him, and they called in a British correspondent, a favored British correspondent, Beverly Nichols, to come and write about the political landscape of India and to interview some of the main leaders. Now, when Beverly Nichols came, Jinnah said he had no time, he could not give him any time for interview, eventually gave him half an hour, and then they had an interview of 3 hours. The book which Beverly Nichols wrote was called Verdict on India. And in that, the chapter in which he took the interview, when he wrote about it, guess what he called it? He called it Dialogue with a Giant. So you can imagine when he compared him with other political leaders, what he considered him. And then it was quoted right then that there was a reader who said, this chapter, Dialogue with the Giant, is much more stronger and effective than the whole book, Verdict on India. I was originally going to talk about that myself, but then there were 2 wonderful young men who volunteered to come and do the role play of the interview. And I am deeply grateful to the Fanoon group and these two young men who were sent by Sayyid Shoaib Arshad, their teacher from Beacon House. Amina Said facilitated it. That is, Sayyid Shoaib is the teacher, Arshad, and these two boys are Abdul Kabir and Hani Jafri. Can we welcome them both? They will give the dialogue on Quaid-e-Azam, this same dialogue with the giant by Beverly Nichols. Over to you, boys. Man in Asia is 6'7", tall, thin, and elegant. I have called Mr. Jinnah the most important man in Asia. India is likely to be the world's greatest problem for years to come, and Mr. Jinnah can sway the battle this way or that way as he chooses. Muslims will march to the left, to the right, to the front, to the rear at his bidding, and at nobody else's. That is the point. And so you see, a great deal hangs on the great silk cord of that monocle. I first met him on December 18th, 1943. He said he would give me half an hour, but he gave me 3.
The most common accusation of your critics is that you have not defined Pakistan with sufficient precision. For example, the most common accusation of your critics is that you have not defined Pakistan with sufficient precision. For example, many details of defense, economics, etc. Do you think that is a just criticism?
It is neither just nor intelligent, particularly if it is made by an Englishman with any knowledge of his own history. When Ireland was separated from Britain, the document embodying the terms of separation was approximately 10 lines. 10 lines of print to settle a dispute of incredible complexity which has poisoned British politics for centuries. All the details were left to the future, and the future is often an admirable arbitrator. Well, I've already given the world a good deal more than 10 lines to indicate the principles and practice of Pakistan. Where was the blueprint when the question of Burma's separation was decided at the Round Table Conference? Where was the blueprint when Sindh was separated from Bombay? The answer, of course, is nowhere. It didn't exist. It didn't need to exist. The vital point was that the principle of separation was accepted. The rest followed automatically.
How would you describe the vital principles of Pakistan?
In 5 words, the Muslims are a nation. If you grant that, and if you are an honest man, you must grant the principle of Pakistan. You would have to grant it even if the obstacles were 100 times more formidable than they are. Of course, if you do not grant it, then there is an end of the matter.
When you say that the Muslims are a nation, are you thinking in terms of religion?
Partly, but by no means exclusively. You must remember that Islam is not merely a religious doctrine, but a realistic and practical code of conduct. I am thinking in terms of life, of everything important in life. I am thinking in terms of our history, our heroes, our art, our architecture, our music, our laws, our jurisprudence.
Please, I would like to write some of these things down.
In all these things, our outlook is not only fundamentally different, but often radically antagonistic to the Hindus. We are different beings. There is nothing in life which links us together. Our names, our clothes, our foods, they are all different. Our economic life, our educational ideas, our treatment of women, our attitude to animals. We challenge each other at every point of the compass. Take one example, the eternal question of the cow. We eat the cow, the Hindus worship it. A lot of Englishmen imagine that this worship is merely a picturesque convention, a historical survival. It is nothing of the sort. Only a few days ago in this very city, the cow question became a matter for the police. the Hindus were thrown into the greatest agitation because cows were being killed in public. But the cow question is only one of 1,000. What have you written down?
I have only written the Muslims are a nation.
And do you believe it?
I do.
What other questions have you got there?
The first is economic. Are the Muslims likely to be The first is economic. Are the Muslims likely to be richer or poorer under Pakistan? And would you set up tariffs against the rest of India?
I'll ask you a question for a change. Supposing you were asked which you would prefer, a rich England under Germany or poor England free, what would your answer be?
It's hardly necessary to say.
Quite. Well, doesn't that make your question look a little shoddy? This great ideal rises far above mere questions of personal comfort or temporary convenience. The Muslims are tough people, lean and hardy. If Pakistan means that they will have to be a little tougher, they will not complain. But why should it mean that? What conceivable reason is there to suppose that the gift of nationality is going to be an economic liability? A sovereign nation of 100 million people, even if they are not immediately self-supporting, and even if they are industrially backwards, is hardly likely to be in a worse economic position than if its members are scattered and disorganized, under the dominance of 250 million Hindus, whose one idea is to exploit them. How any European can get up and say that Pakistan is economically impossible after the Treaty of Wadhar is really beyond my comprehension. The great brains who cut Europe into a ridiculous patchwork of conflicting and artificial boundaries are hardly the people to talk economics to us, particularly as our problem happens to be far simpler.
And does that also apply to defense?
Of course it applies to defense. Once again, I will ask you a question. How is Afghanistan defended? Well, the answer is not very complicated. By the Afghans, just that. We are a brave and united people who are prepared to work and, if necessary, fight. So how does the question of defense present any peculiar difficulties? In what way do we differ from other nations? From Iran, for example. Obviously, there will have to be a transition period. We are not asking the British to quit India overnight. The British have helped to make this gigantic muddle, and they must stay and help to clear it up. But before they can do that, they will have to do a lot of hard thinking.
The ironical thing is that your critics say that Pakistan itself is a British creation, that it is an example of our genius for applying the principle of divide and rule.
The man who makes such a suggestion must have a very poor opinion of British intelligence, apart from his opinion of my own integrity. The one thing which keeps the British in India is the false idea of a united India, as preached by Gandhi. A united India, I repeat, is a British creation, a myth, and a very dangerous myth, which will cause endless strife. As long as that strife exists, the British have an excuse for remaining. For once in a way, divide and rule does not apply.
What you want is divide and quit.
You have put it very neatly. Thank you.
This was brilliant.
Now we are a little more clearer about why Pakistan was made. And now let me here also add that when the subcontinent was to be partitioned, Jinnah wanted the name of Pakistan for our own homeland and Bharat for India. Now, over the years, how did the name India come about? In the Sanskrit times, it was called, I have it somewhere, it was called Indu. Later on, an H was added and it was called Hindu. When the Greeks came, they removed H and it became Indu. Now this is actually the river Indus. So the river Indus is where we are, and this is all this history, all the civilizations were part of this part of the subcontinent which became Pakistan. And when India, the name India, Republic of India, despite Jinnah's disapproval, was given by the British to the Hindus, at that time Jinnah was very furious because he felt a part of our civilization and all that had been sliced away. But Jinnah must be a very happy man today because in 1923, Moody proved his two-nation theory and he started calling, now India is formally called Bharat. Now let's briefly examine the key principles because this is something which we have to hold on to. The key principles advocated by Muhammad Ali Jinnah. Unity. He emphasized the importance of unity to overcome whatever difficulties we had and to build a cohesive society. Jinnah believed that the strength of a nation lay in its unity, so he urged the Muslims and later on us Pakistanis to work together irrespective of our provincialism, caste, creed, or religion. Only then could we become a force to reckon with. By individual paths, pursuing our individual paths, we will achieve nothing. Allama Iqbal, much earlier, had said, "Fard qaim rabta hai millat se hai, tanha kuch nahi. Mauj hai darya mein, बैरून darya kuch nahi." During 1945-46 general elections held by the British, Jinnah infused the Muslims with such spirit and such belief that the AIML, All India Muslim League, won in all the 30 Muslim constituencies. This was a strategic victory of Jinnah. The United Muslim vote gave the power of negotiation to ask for a separate homeland for the Muslims. Jinnah went to the Aligarh Muslim University. We all know about Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and how he struggled, and because Muslims were not learning English, and he set up this university, and that's a very interesting story too. Jinnah appealed to the students of Aligarh Muslim University, and he called them the arsenal of Muslim India. He requested them to fan out all over the subcontinent, and for 3 months, I'll just give you another story of a person who was part of this force. For 3 months, they all came from all sorts of families, and they worked as foot soldiers for 3 months. And when the elections results came, it proved to be a referendum for Pakistan. और नारा क्या था? कोई बता सकता है? बट के रहेगा हिंदुस्तान, बन के रहेगा Pakistan. Now the story I want to share with you is that of Brigadier Iqbal Shafi. He later on went to the army once Pakistan was made, or maybe even before that, and later on he was an ambassador to China as well, and looked after Sir Syed Memorial Trust for a long time. He was studying there at Aligarh, and he said, हम लोग intermediate के students थे. What is the age? 18 years or so? And the parents, because nobody was scared कि इनको बच्चों को कुछ हो जाएगा, and you know how big the subcontinent was. These students, and Iqbal Shafi came from a pretty well-to-do home. He says, 20 रुपए हमें मिले थे 3 महीनों के लिए, खर्चे के लिए. So he said, with those 20 rupees, he says, but we did not care where we slept, wherever we were. Some people gave us food, कोई railway station पे सो रहे हैं, कोई कुछ कर रहे हैं, मगर they were the foot soldiers, and they canvassed, and they lobbied, and they got all the seats. और कहते हैं जब हम वापस आए, तो we were hoping कि हमारे intermediate के exams नहीं होंगे तो हमें pass कर देंगे. No. This you students and teachers have to learn कि छुट्टियों से नहीं काम बनता. They were asked to study for about 3 weeks and take the exam. So no shortcuts if you want to succeed. And this obviously showed the unity of the people. Now we come to faith. He encouraged strong moral values, determination, and faith in the cause of Pakistan, believing that self-determination and faith would drive the nation forward. Jinnah had unwavering faith in his nation, faith in Islam as a democratic force, and faith in the potential and destiny of his people. So we should reflect on it. Why are we letting him down and letting us down? Speaking to students, he said, "You are the builders of the nation." How many students are sitting here? There are 2 just now, but there are so many teachers who can carry this message. There are so many quotes of Jinnah, but these are the relevant ones, and I'm hoping कि ये सारा जो है record होगा, so I can share it, so you can also, take it in your own schools and repeat it. You are the builders of this nation. The nation's leaders you are the nation's leaders. So what do you equip yourself with? Discipline, education, and training for the task ahead. This faith in his cause and his people led Jinnah to believe and say with total conviction, there is no power on this earth which can undo Pakistan. And mind you, sociologists have always maintained and spoken about a small group being the catalyst in big, huge societies. Khamir ban jata hai wo, to spread around. And you teachers, you should be that khamir to spread this in your institutions, in your own communities. Now, Margaret Mead, one of the very well-known sociologists, has said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtfully committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has. And that's what we've got to form now, once again. Now, discipline. Jinnah believed in the power of discipline to ensure that the people of Pakistan worked hard, stayed focused, and maintained law and order and followed rules wherever they existed. Now, let us not look at what others are doing, but let us look at what me individually. Do I follow rules? Do I follow traffic rules? Do I follow unwritten rules कि जो घर के होते हैं वो सब, और ये फिर हमारा जो nursery है वो school की होगी. We cannot affect what happens in their homes. But children who win the respect of their teachers, वो हर बात follow करेंगे. So be those teachers who can inspire that respect and role model. Jinnah stressed the importance of discipline in achieving one's personal and national goals. And we all know the need for discipline has never been greater than it is today. The struggle for independence in our history informs us that our people, whether they were educated, uneducated, wherever they came from, they did manifest unity, faith, and discipline to achieve their destiny. And so many of them gave unprecedented sacrifice, particularly during the exodus of the refugees. Now here, Jinnah always referred to Islam and Islamic teachings of discipline. During Ramzan, once, Jinnah was asked to give a message for Ramzan. आजकल आप पूछें तो सब कहते हैं ये पढ़ो, वो पढ़ो, इतनी दफ़ा पढ़ो, ये करो, वो करो. जो निचोड़ हमारे मज़हब का है, जो spirit है, that's what Jinnah spoke about. And the message which he gave was, each one of us can serve our country by disciplining herself or himself. Discipline is the essence of this month. Is one regular in one's habits? ये हमें सीखना है और ये हमें करना है. Is one sincere in one's work? और sincerity सिर्फ अपने लिए नहीं, हर एक के लिए. Does one render such help as one can to others? Is one tolerant? और ये जो हमारी बुक मार्क है, इस पे भी ये लिखा हुआ है ताकि ये याद दहानी हमेशा रहे हमें. ये एक तरफ सारा यही मैसेज लिखा हुआ है. Jinnah's advice focused on what Islam expects of us in our everyday life of a Muslim. Now, regularity in habits. इसमें एक मुझे इतनी अच्छी कहानी लगती है. ये some of you might have heard it and some may have not heard it, मगर ये teachers के लिए ख़ास तौर पे है. University of Texas, Austin में वहाँ पे जब graduation होती है तो अपने पुराने किसी को alumni को बुलाते हैं as the commencement speaker. And this time it was Admiral William McRaven. उनको बुलाया गया तो उनको कहा कि आप ज़रा एडवाइस लगाएं, बताइए. तो उन्होंने कुछ तो अपनी एज अ सील इन द नेवी जो उन्होंने सीखा था, बट सबसे ज़रूरी जो उन्होंने बात की, ही सेड मेक योर बेड every day the first thing in the morning. Why? That will set the pattern of the day. You will have done, completed one good task. It might be very, very microscopic, very, very small. But when completed, it makes you move forward. It sets the pattern of the day. These small acts, when they're put together, these are the ones which make the difference in our own lives, in the lives of our community. And अगर हमारी communities में ये होने लग पड़ा है, सफाई. I was very happy to hear, जब मैं आई तो मैंने कुछ पत्ते देखे थे गिरे हुए, तो फिर कमांडर साहब ने भी कहा कि पत्तों को हटाएं, तो वो नहीं थे सफाई वाले. मैंने कहा मुझे ला दें झाड़ू, हम कहते तो हैं सफाई निस्फ ईमान है, पर क्या हम करते हैं? क्या हम अपनी गलियों को साफ कर देते हैं? And Karachi, you know, I came here, I love Karachi because I came here for my honeymoon. And it was a beautiful place then. And it's over 54 years ago. और अब कराची में, खैर सब पाकिस्तान में भी बहुत कूड़ा गंद तो हो गया है, मगर as I'm speaking to you also, I can sound a little pompous and I can just say, can we start at our own doorsteps, in our own communities? Now I'd like to speak a little about Jinnah's inaugural session of the Constituent Assembly, which he addressed on 11th August 1947. The lines he spoke about the minorities and about freedom of religion are repeated again and again. And of course, these are absolutely necessary. You are free to go to your temples, you are free to go to your mosques, you are free to go to any place of worship. This has nothing to do with the working of the state. Now, ये जो minorities हैं, इनका हिस्सा तो पाकिस्तान के झंडे में थोड़ा है. But do you realize that they hold the flagpole of Pakistan? That is their contribution. And now we need to remember and look at it more than ever before as to the treatment which we are meting out to the minorities. फिर इसके बाद ये सवाल फिर उठता है, did Jinnah want a secular Pakistan? Did you want a theocratic Pakistan? Did you want an Islamic welfare Pakistan? जब उनसे पूछा गया कि do you want a theocratic Pakistan? He said, I don't know what a theocratic state is. Well, yes, he said, I want a democracy, an Islamic democracy, because Islam fundamentally teaches about rights of people, rights of women, rights of people of all colors, of orphans, and looking after your own communities, teaching you compassion. अपने लिए तो करना ही है, औरों के लिए भी आपने करना है. So, and then There are a lot of other democratic principles. So this is what he said he believed in. तो ये तो चले ठीक है, इसकी भी बात होनी चाहिए. But here, now let me just, it makes me wonder कि इसमें सिर्फ ये तो नहीं कहा था इस इनॉग्रल एड्रेस में, और जो बहुत ज़रूरी चीज़ें थी, आई वाज वेरी हैप्पी टू सी कि वो जहाँ पे भी कायद आज़म की तस्वीर के साथ वो लगाई गई हैं. Why have we forgotten that Jinnah spoke strongly about bribery, corruption, nepotism, and black marketing? One of the biggest curses we are suffering from is bribery and corruption. We must pull these down with an iron hand, he said. Till recently, I had not even heard about this. आप लोगों ने सुनी भी थी है? इसका तो जिक्र ही नहीं होता, सिर्फ वही कहा जाता है. And we get so fixated that we've got to remember कि उन्होंने सब चीज़ें जो कही थी, they're supposed to guide us in our lives and in the working of the government. Black marketing is another curse that must be severely punished. Excuse me. It leads to widespread starvation, deprivation, and even death. ये जो होर्डिंग की जाती है, अब हमें पता है ना हमारी सोसाइटी में कितनी इनइक्वालिटीज़ हैं. And the Quran, Islam, and all our Sufi saints always talked about equitable living and learning from nature. और मुझे जो इसके ऊपर जो सबसे अच्छा मुझे शेर याद, बहुत सारे होंगे, बुल्ले शाह का है. वेख बंदिया आसमाना ते उड़दे पंछी, वेख बंदिया आसमाना ते उड़दे पंछी, वेख ते सही की करदे ने, ना एक करदे रिज़्क ज़ख़ीरा, न एक भुखे मरदे ने. बंदे ही करदे रिज़्क ज़ख़ीरा ते बंदे ही भुखे मरदे ने. Along this, with many other things, good or bad, Jinnah said there is evil of nepotism and jobbery. Jobbery, I had to look up कि क्या है. Jobbery जो अपने को आप फेवर करते जाते हैं, मेरिट को नहीं देखते कि ये मेरा भाई, मेरा भांजा, ये मेरा रिश्तेदार, ये मेरा दोस्त, उसको हम आगे करते जाते हैं. तभी तो ये हाल हो गया बहुत सारी इंस्टीट्यूशंस का. I had come to Karachi 3.5 years ago, और हेरिटेज के ऊपर कुछ मंजितारों में कोई इवेंट होना तो उसकी मैंने बात करनी थी. जब मैं गई, कोई जो द पावर्स दैट बी हु वर कंसर्न विद हेरिटेज, तो वो कहने लगे हाँ हाँ आप तो बहुत पढ़ी लिखी हैं और आपने बड़ी किताबें, कुछ हम लोगों ने किताबें भी हेरिटेज पे लिखी थी, मगर आप मुझे ये बताएं आप पंजाबी क्यों नहीं बोलते. सो kept on upbraiding me. तो मैंने कहा जी आए ज़रा जो काम मैंने करना है उसके ऊपर हम बात करें. कहने लगे छोड़ें जी, आप उनके साथ करें ना, पहले मुझे तो जवाब दें. एंड ऑल सॉर्ट्स ऑफ रिडिकुलस, कुछ टिकटॉक सुना दिए और कुछ ये कर दिए. Now, for God's sake. Now that's when I realized that this gentleman could not have been here unless it was jobbery. तो भाई कम से कम मुल्क के अपने लिए कुछ करते हैं तो करें, मुल्क के लिए भी तो कुछ करके जाएं, कोई मेरिट के ऊपर लोगों को सेलेक्ट करें. Now Jinnah's advice to students was, my young friends, I have great love and affection for you, and I have served you faithfully and loyally for 10 years. But now, in fairness to yourself, to your parents and the state, devote your total attention to your studies. Pakistan is proud of its youth, he said. Equip yourself with discipline and education. And let me warn you not to be exploited by one party or another. And another thing which he said, which is so relevant today, more relevant than it was then. Beware of a fifth columnist. Actually, आम लोगों को तो columnist का पता नहीं होता. अब columnist कौन होते हैं? Those who support the enemy of the country and covertly help them. to undermine the country's stability. Don't we see that on the social media all the time? So much so that the Indians have said that we don't need to do anything. They themselves are trying to tear the fabric. So beware of that. And imagine Jinnah warned then. Now, Jinnah, what did he think about education and educator? वो इसके बीच में भी Jinnah actually said that education is the life of the country. Without education, there is complete darkness. I don't have to repeat, we all know at present the educational issues we have. But at the same time, I would like to repeat that the single national curriculum which gets so much criticism is not a bad one, because now they've started making changes. Now they're letting, other publishers bring in their books. And not only that, but educational for sustainable development and all, things are improving there too. And education is the foundation, he said, of every nation, and he was a great advocate for female education, It is crucial not to sideline our women. We should involve and empower women in every sphere of life. Here I'm very pleased to share with you that I've been, part of the education system since now it is 45 years, I think. क्योंकि मेरा छोटा बेटा माशाल्लाह, he is 51, और ये 3 साल का था जब स्कूल डाला तो मैंने पढ़ाना शुरू किया, and more or less I've continued. अब फीमेल एजुकेशन जो उस वक्त थी, खैर काफ़ी देर हो गई, अब जो है जितनी हमारे स्कूल में सपोर्ट स्टाफ जो औरतें हैं जो भी हैं वो सब कहती हैं कहीं से पढ़ा दें, हम कहीं से पढ़ा दें, एंड द सिविल सोसाइटी इज़ डूइंग so much hugely to support education wherever they can in so many different ways and means. Now, education doesn't, Jinnah said, mean academic learning. There is an immediate and urgent need to train our people in scientific thinking and technical education to build our future. We have to compete with the world which is moving very fast. Jinnah was a very modern man with modern liberal thinking. Now, I was asked a question by a young person when I told them I'll be speaking on this. He says, was Jinnah familiar with the pressures youth are confronted with due to globalization and technology? Well, yes, Jinnah did not live in this global digital age. But he did emphasize to remain aware of modern age developments. We are not to be left behind. And now, teachers, what are the major educational new pedagogies, new methods, new focuses? Of course, technology is there and it can be a very, very helpful tool. AI and the different generative engines which is got, where you got to sort of ask specific questions like ChatGPT. But at the same time, we have to mostly focus on skills of learning for the 21st century. अब skills में क्या चीज़ आती है? सबसे पहले communication. कि किसी से गुफ्तगू कर रहे हैं, किस तरीके से करते हैं आप? Are you clear? Are you lucid? Are you respectful? Collaboration कि जो चीज़ करनी है इकट्ठे मिलजुल के करें और ताकि फ़ायदा इकट्ठा ही हो सबका. Critical thinking, creating new ideas. मगर इसमें कई जगह ये कहा जाता है कि there are these 4 skills, but compassion is so important. Feeling for the other, thinking of the other. So whenever you are doing these skills of education, please bring in compassion. Jinnah emphasized the need for tolerance, fairness, justice, and living as cohesive communities, despite differences in our culture, caste, or creed. He reminded us constantly of the democratic values of Islam and inclusion. This is all encapsulated in the verse 49 of Surah Hujurat, which is the bedrock of learning and living together with diversity. As mentioned earlier, my organization is one of the lead organizations of UNESCO. And what they promote in their educational institutions is a culture of learning to live together. And when you examine this Surah Hujurat, it is an obvious confirmation, and it was a declaration far before UNESCO came. और ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग बात ये है कि जब कतर में पीछे फुटबॉल का हुआ था ना, वर्ल्ड मैच हुए थे, जो किसी को याद है? भाई लड़कों को मर्दों को तो याद होना चाहिए फुटबॉल का। तो उसमें जो ओपनिंग सेरेमनी थी उसमें मॉर्गन फ्रीमैन आए थे, तो वो उसको वहाँ पे, क्योंकि जब ये यहाँ पे हो रही थी तो कितना वेस्ट में लोगों ने कहा कि ये LGBT और जेंडर और फलाना ये वो ये करते हैं तो ना करें, और गिविंग अ वेरी बैड प्रेस। मगर जब ये सारे लोग वहाँ पे आए तो दे वर वेरी हैप्पी, दे डिडंट ड्रिंक, इट डिडंट मैटर बिकॉज दे वर इन्वॉल्व्ड इन वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग अदर एक्टिविटीज एंड सो ऑन। तो मॉर्गन फ्रीमैन, बेटा आप कबीर आइए, आप फिर सुनाएंगे ना इनको, आप अरबी में सुनाएंगे इनको ये। अच्छा, तो मॉर्गन फ्रीमैन एक लड़का है जो उसके आधा सधड़ था, तो वो उसमें सेंटर में बैठा होता है, तो उसे कहता है कि भाई तुम लोगों ने क्या कर दिया यहाँ पे, कमाल, इतने नेशनैलिटीज़, इतने लोग आए हैं, फ़र्क डिफरेंट वेज ऑफ थिंकिंग, सारे बड़े खुशबाश हैं। सो he turned around and he said to him, we have learnt all this from our great religion, Islam. और ये जो सूरह हुजरात है, I quote it at every international forum I have had the opportunity to go, right from Japan, Korea, Australia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, Egypt, across straight to the US. This is what Islam propagates, learning to live together. और मैंने अब पीछे जब क्लिप सुना तो वो जो हानिम अल मुफ्ता है, उससे बेहतर हमारा बच्चा जो है, इसका तलफ़ुज़ और बयान जो है सूरह हुजरात का, आप सुना दीजिए बेटे।
अऊज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम, बिस्मिल्लाहिर रहमानिर रहीम। या अय्युहन्नासु इन्ना खलक़नाकुम मिन ज़करिन व उन्सा वजअलनाकुम शुऊबन व क़बाइल लितआरफ़ू इन्न अक्रमकुम इन्दल्लाहि अत्क़ाकुम इन्नल्लाह अलीमुन ख़बीर। O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female, and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. Indeed, Allah is knowing and acquainted. Jazakallah khair.
Nations for us to recognize, and it's those who are on the righteous path, to whichever caste, creed, or religion they belong, that they are the ones who are the favored ones. Now, talking of the righteous path, during the present times, एक और जो मसला मुझे बहुत नज़र आता है और हम सबको नज़र आता है, is the use of foul language. Is this desirable? Why have we started using foul language, and why has it become acceptable? पिछले कुछ 4-5 साल से हो रहा है. The politicians use it, then the second tier leaders use it, फिर दूसरे, फिर बच्चे, common man, everyone. Up here, let us look at Jinnah. In his whole life, he never used any unparliamentary language, despite the fact that he was, disappointed, he was enraged, he was angry. कभी भी नहीं. सिर्फ एक दफ़ा उन्होंने मौलाना आज़ाद को कहा था, he is the show boy of the Congress, और नेहरू साहब को उन्होंने कहा था the flamboyant boy. क्योंकि वो बहुत ज़्यादा चिकनी चुपड़ी बातें ये वो सब कुछ करते थे। सीधी बात करनी चाहिए। और पहले हमारे वालिदैन के वक्तों में कुछ न कुछ ऐसे था। एक दफ़ा गांधी साहब ने जिन्ना को एड्रेस करते हुए तो कहा कि व्हाट शुड आई कॉल यू, मिस्टर लीडर ऑफ द मुस्लिम्स, कायद आज़म? And Jinnah turned around and he said, by any other name, a rose will smell as sweet. अब ये इन्होंने शेक्सपियर की कोटेशन की थी, क्योंकि जब ये गए थे लंदन पढ़ने के लिए तो ही यूज्ड टू गो रेगुलरली टू वॉच शेक्सपियर इन प्लेस, और बहुत इन्होंने शेक्सपियर सीखा था। और वो ये सुना में आया है, फातिमा जिन्ना कहती थी कि अक्सर आके रात को ये शेक्सपियर की किताबें पढ़ते थे, नॉवेल्स पढ़ते थे उनके, क्योंकि और प्लेस पढ़ते थे, क्योंकि देयर वाज सो मच टू लर्न अबाउट लाइफ। और फिर डिलीवरी जो है ये वहाँ पे स्टेज पे देखते थे, एंड देन लेटर ऑन ही अडॉप्टेड सम ऑफ दैट डिलीवरी स्टाइल इन हिज ओन इन हिज ओन व्हेन ही वाज गिविंग हिज आर्गुमेंट्स एंड ऑल. So all this, wherever we go, whatever good we learn from wherever, that should be a part of us. In fact, it's noteworthy to know that Jinnah wanted, Jinnah इसीलिए तो कहते थे ना plain Mr. Jinnah, क्योंकि वो कहते थे I would like to be known as plain Mr. Jinnah. जो वो थे वही काफ़ी था उनके लिए, तो उन्हें किसी ज़रूरत नहीं थी टाइटल की. फिर अलीगढ़ यूनिवर्सिटी में he was called to be conferred an honorary doctorate degree. इन्होंने बहुत शुक्रिया कहा, तो उन्होंने कहा कि ये मुझे कुछ सही नहीं लगता कि मैं डॉक्टरेट की डिग्री मुझे वहाँ से मिले. Let us learn from that. अगर अभी हमने सीखा नहीं, let the young people learn कि आप जो खुद हैं उसी को प्रोजेक्ट करें, और ये डिग्रीज जो हैं इससे कोई फ़र्क नहीं पड़ता. कुछ सिर्फ वो हर वक्त ये कहते थे कि काम की बात करो, वर्क वर्क एंड मोर वर्क. और इतनी इनको जिन्ना को बिलीफ इन हिज यूथ था, he says they can rise from every challenge we are faced with. और वो हमेशा कहते थे never lose hope. Hopelessness in Islam we know is supposed to be a sin. Why have we become hopeless? Why is it कि अभी भी पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ फलाना कुछ नहीं होगा, कुछ नहीं होगा? Like I said, there are few committed people can do a lot, and so many of you whom I don't know of must be doing a lot of good work in your communities. And I know of one person who's come here, Mr. Naeem Sadiq, जो हर वक्त rights and social equalities के ऊपर लड़ते हैं. और उनकी आप अगर पढ़ें और उनके हिस्से आप उनके फोरम में शामिल हो जाएं तो एक और आवाज़ will be added. अब ये जो हम लोग कि कुछ नहीं होता, कुछ नहीं करना, बिगड़ गई चीज़ तो बिगड़ गया, ख़राबा हो गया तो ख़राबा हो गया. अब यहाँ पे सिंध में खड़े हुए I have to talk about शाह अब्दुल लतीफ़ भटाई. वो भी हर वक्त नेचर को देखते थे, गौर व फिक्र करते थे, सुनते थे और समझते थे कि ये क्या ज़िंदगी है इनकी, क्या हमसे सीख सकते हैं. और जब तूफ़ान आता था तो उसमें इन्होंने, मेरे पास वो कलाम तो नहीं है बट वी ऑल नो अबाउट इट, तो वो अपने वो गेट पे बैठे हुए तो वो देखते थे तूफ़ान आंधी आती है तो वो घोंसले टूट जाते हैं, कितने बेघर हो जाते थे परिंदे चरिंदे. और डिड दे लूज होप? क्या वो कहते आए ये ख़राबा हो गया, ये फलाने ने किया, ये ब्लेम गेम करनी? नहीं. जो ही तूफ़ान रुकता था, थमता था, दे वुड स्टार्ट पिकिंग एक एक तिनका, एंड दे वुड स्टार्ट रीबिल्डिंग द नेस्ट्स. सो व्हाई डू वी डिस्पेयर? व्हाई डू वी लूज होप? हैव फेथ इन योर एबिलिटीज़ and its self-realization, and I especially again address the teachers. We can learn so much from nature. और कुरान में सूरह नहल इतनी खूबसूरत सूरह है क्योंकि इतनी छोटी सी मक्खी, शहद की मक्खी के ऊपर कि कितनी छोटी सी चीज़ है, और क्यों कुरान में बताया गया है कि छोटे से बड़े तक प्लेज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रोल. डज नॉट मैटर how big or small you are, मगर जो आपको एक साइकिल ऑफ लाइफ दी गई है जो आपको उस पर अगर आप जाएंगे तो क्या कमाल ही कर लेंगे आप लोग। लर्न टू मिमिक द लाइफ ऑफ हनी बी। ये कुछ साइंटिस्ट हैं मैके जो आजकल इसके ऊपर वो स्टडी करी है अमेरिका, और वो कहती है मैं तो हैरान रह गई थी, कुछ 300 साल 400 साल हमें पता चला है कि हनी बीज कैसे रहती हैं क्या नहीं। आप सोचें वो कि वो जो उनका होता है हाइव, उसको पहले साफ करती हैं क्वीन बी जब अंडे देती है उससे पहले। अगर वो कर सकती हैं साफ, तो हम नहीं अपनी कम्युनिटी को साफ कर सकते। सो दे आर लाइफ लेसन्स टू लर्न। और फिर मैंने कुछ छोटी सारी बीच में कुछ पंजाबी की लिखी हुई है, मगर थोड़ा सा मैं आपको बताऊंगी कि मक्खी जी तू केड़े फुलों निकली, तू इस फुलों निकली, तू उस फुलों निकली। रब जी ने आख्या सी फुलों कोल जावी तू, बहुता जमा करें तो बहुता ले आवी तू, थोड़ा थोड़ा खावी तो बहुता वंडावी तू, कम काज करके पा पई किकली, मक्खी जी तू केड़े फुलों निकली। This is about serving our communities. This is what we can do. खुद पहले अपने लिए करें और फिर औरों के लिए। Can we learn from the Almighty? We are certainly, of course, once again I repeat, passing through difficult times. मगर हम अब भी अपना डायरेक्शन चेंज कर सकते हैं। और इसमें अगेन रिमेम्बरिंग इकबाल, वो क्या एक जो बहुत उनका इम्पोर्टेंट जो कलाम है, दियारे इश्क में अपना मकाम पैदा कर। आई एम प्लीज टू टेल यू कि हमने अपने स्कूल की एंथम बना ली है, दियारे इश्क में अपना मकाम पैदा कर, नया ज़माना नई सुबह शाम पैदा कर। क्या हम करेंगे? और फिर रूमी का एक बहुत प्यारा सा है, मैं अभी मुझे मेरी खुशकिस्मती थी कि आई कुड गो to Konya, or I paid homage to him. Don't think, says Rumi, don't think the garden loses its ecstasy in winter. हमारा कुछ winter का ही time आया है ना? It's quiet, but the roots down there are riotous. Let those roots come out. Let the good which is being done in certain communities come out and take flower and take shape. Ab ye, as at the individual level, at our group's level, we all need to look at that. Can we play now the last quick? Can we all stand up to honor 𝐒𝐄𝐑? There is a tarana which I selected to be played today, और जिनको आता है वो प्लीज़ गा लें, क्योंकि हमारे वक्त में तो हम लोग बहुत गाया करते थे। आज़ादी की दुनिया हुई हैरान, है कायदे आज़म तेरा एहसान है एहसान, हमें आज़ादी की दुनिया हुई हैरान, है कायदे आज़म तेरा एहसान है एहसान। मुसलमानों के भाई मुल्क अपना था और गैरों के हाथों में थी शाही, ऐसे में उठा मोहम्मद का सिपाही, और नारे तकबीर से धूल कमाई, इस्लाम का झंडा लिए मैदान, है कायदे आज़म तेरा एहसान है एहसान, एहसान है तेरा एहसान। इकबाल ने एक ख्वाब सुना, उस ख्वाब को कि रोज हकीकत है बनाना, ये सोच तूने तो हंसा तुझ पे ज़माना, हराने जाओ के दुश्मन हुए हैरान, है कायदे आज़म एहसान है एहसान, एहसान है। Now, thank you all for coming and being part of this program. And now for the question answer sessions. If anyone has any questions, और वो हैं थोड़ा सारे वक्त के, क्योंकि हमने शुरू भी देर से किया था, और इसमें I would like, अगर आप लोगों ने, टीचर्स ने और आप लोगों को जी जी
I'll be very brief, ma'am. I must congratulate you for the conduction of the program. I'm Abdurrahman Sheikh, and for about 8 years in 2 KBOs I served the all-round of
अच्छा जी
for 8 years.
माशाल्लाह excellent.
My colleague, we are living in Askari, Major Jawalji said that you must go with us. So, hearing you and Madam Amina say is wonderful. I had the visit to OUT when I was principal. I have headed about 17 institutions in Pakistan.
माशाल्लाह
From Karachi to Islamabad, ICB, ATS, BF College, Sindh Madrasa, South Engineering College, directors. My worries which I want to share with this office. But before doing that, Kyle wanted that besides the men, women should also contribute. And this gathering, mashallah, I must appreciate they are in the majority. And I'm sure
wow say yes to women power, say yes.
Pakistan is in the face. Napoleon said that give me the good mother. He has a mother,
जी
but unfortunately fathers are not there, teachers are not there, the government is not there.
चलें जी, अब ये तो if I may
Now very,
जी जी
very
जी
simple. The display that you have, it
जी
should also be benefited by the institutions.
बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं आप.
Whatever
definitely.
is displayed is a history, is a complete history. You invite the institutions that they must visit, and they must, bring the students and they should see for themselves, because seeing is believing. Such a treasure is not normally available in the institutions.
बिल्कुल सही कहा आपने.
Now, last my submission is that we are lacking the practical aspect in our society. Whatever the Qaid has said, Shah Latif has said, whatever that we read in the books, the moment we come out, we are just forgetting it and we are not bringing in our practical life. This needs our attention, whether we have to push the government, whether we have to push the teachers, because it is not only the institutions that we see around, like Cadet College, Hassan Abdal, or we see the Beacon, or we see the city. We have the interior. Very recently I was in Nawab Shah, madam, your attention I want. So there was a great rush in my institution. 2 shifts, 3,000 in the morning and 1,500 in the evening, Indus Rangers College. I was there for about 3 years. So I asked them, why are you rushing to these our institutions? They said there is no education around in Nawab Shah. So this is what is happening around, like people running to the grammar school, people running to the city school. What about other institutions in Karachi? What about who is going to tell the students about Qai's teaching and their course and their life? And today's seminar, who is going to record the proceedings?
ये जी आज रिकॉर्ड हो गई हैं, and these will be put online, this will be put on the YouTube. ठीक बात है ना? देखिए sir, if I might be sounding
My
rude.
submission is, I served in the government of Pakistan as joint secretary. I retired as a joint secretary with Ministry of. I'm a CSS of ex-CSS of Army officer also at ex-CSS. So my recommendation is that you send the recorded proceedings to the government of Pakistan and ask them that disseminate to Dadu, to Jacobard, to KPK. They must disseminate. So this will have a motivation for it.
बिल्कुल ठीक.
I congratulate you. I congratulate Board of Management. This is
Thank you,
part
sir.
of the day that we want, that Allah should bless our country.
Thank you.
Ameen. Thank you very much, sir. We are honored to have you over here.
जी any question? जी जी बोले बेटे.
जी जी.
वालेकुम सलाम.
This is Rizal Shahid from Karachi Fauji Foundation.
जी जी.
I want to pay tribute to Allama Iqbal with the words
Sure.
यकीन मुक्कम अमल बहन मोहब्बत फातह आदम जहाद जिंदगानी में यह मर्दों की शमशीर है. Now my question is, how can we imbibe patriotism in our young generation?
Ajay beta, this is a very good question, but if you listened to the proceedings today, you would get a lot of very good ideas. जैसे मैंने आपको कहा था ना कि skills of learning for the 21st century, वो ही चीज़ें थी जो जिन्ना wanted, modern education, वो आप imbibe करें, उसको करें और take it forward, और education for sustainable development. Now here I'll be pleased to tell you that in Rawalpindi, with the Fauji Foundation Directorate, we've just initiated the Chula project. और चूल्हा प्रोजेक्ट कौन सा है जो यास्मीन लारी ने मकली में शुरू किया था. वो पुरानी जो अच्छी चीज़ें थी हमारी, उनको हम वापस लेके आए. बट्टी का वो बनता है, उसके 3 फ़र्क उसके ऊपर एक वक्त में चीज़ें पक सकती हैं, और वो सेंट्रल एशिया में और अफ्रीका में जा चुका है, और हमने यहाँ पे ज़्यादा डिसेमिनेट नहीं किया. और आई एम रियली होपफुल कि व्हेन आई गो बैक इन दिसंबर, उसकी ऑलरेडी हमने पायलटिंग अपने स्कूल में की है. हमारा स्कूल जो है इट्स फॉर मिडिल क्लास एंड लो मिडिल क्लास स्टूडेंट्स, और उसमें हमने पायलटिंग कर ली है, और विच फौजी फाउंडेशन वाज वेरी हैप्पी. सो दे आर, ये एजुकेशन फॉर सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट बहुत ज़रूरी है. जो भी पढ़ाते हैं ऐसे हुए जो सस्टेन की जाए. एंड सर, हर चीज़ जैसे आपने कहा था, द बक स्टॉप्स विद मी. मैं क्या कर रही हूँ, मेरे इर्द गिर्द मेरी फैमिली में क्या कर रहा है. गवर्नमेंट को वी माइट नॉट बी एबल टू इन्फ्लुएंस देम, मगर हम लोग अगर अपनी जगह, कितने हम लोग हैं करोड़, अगर हम अपनी ज़िंदगियों में बेहतरी ला सकें तो क्यों नहीं नेशनल लेवल पे नज़र आएगी. बिल्कुल आएगी इंशाल्लाह. एनी अदर क्वेश्चन जी?
I appreciate your program and you really delivered a very good speech. I'm very proud that I'm a principal of Sid Madrasatul Islam.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah.
Welcome, madam.
Welcome.
And what I want to say that when I joined that school, it was a very, typical type of school. But I had one vision that I will change all this, traditional method to and modern method, like activity based, and
बहुत
and I'm very proud to say that in my school, this is the first school in the government sector that is having 2 boards. We have Karachi board and we have Aga Khan board.
Alhamdulillah.
And
Oh, that's wonderful. अब ये देखें ना आपने कि a small group can become a catalyst, खमीर बन के वो उभर सकता है. And but then please, if you can pass it on to the other schools, एक कोई ग्रुप बना लें, 2-3 स्कूलों तक तो ये फैला दें, तो that would be an even greater
हम बहुत ज़्यादा फीस
contribution.
वगैरह कुछ नहीं लेते हैं, और वही आगा खान बोर्ड जो दूसरे स्कूल 20-20 हज़ार रुपए चार्ज कर रहे हैं. We are giving the free.
Excellent.
And we
Excellent.
are giving the training to our teachers
बहुत अच्छा.
that they should be able to teach. और अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह हमारे भी बच्चे US प्रोग्राम में भी गए, स्कॉलरशिप भी लिया, और इवन कि यहाँ पे प्रोग्राम हुआ था वहाँ पे भी हमारे
बहुत उम्दा, बहुत उम्दा. Thank you. One more question, please.
Yes,
अच्छा,
sir.
the gentleman.
Sir.
जी मैडम, मैं वेरी इम्प्रेस्ड ऑफ योर प्रेजेंटेशन. देखिए, हम सबको कायदे आज़म का जो भी फरमान रहे हैं, फरमुदात रहे हैं, और जो उन्होंने मुल्क के लिए खिदमात बनाने के लिए की हैं, वो किसी की छुट्टी तो नहीं है. मेरी एक सजेशन है या एक डिमांड समझ लें.
जी जी.
देखिए, हम आजकल बच्चों को, नौजवानों को, बूढ़ों को भी आजकल इस वतन की अहमियत का एहसास नहीं है. हम फौरी तौर पर मुल्क तोड़ने की बातें शुरू कर देते हैं. हमारे दिलों में मुल्क की मोहब्बत नहीं है. क्या ये मुमकिन नहीं है कि जो कायदे आज़म के ऊपर एक सब्जेक्ट, उसको कोई भी नाम दिया जाए, वो बच्चों को शुरू से कंपलसरी पढ़ाया जाए कि जो ये उन्होंने अपने खिदमात की, उन्होंने क्या इस मुल्क को बनाने के लिए किया, उनके क्या फरमुदात थे इस मुल्क को चलाने के लिए, इस मुल्क की. तो मेरे ख्याल है कि दिलों में एक मोहब्बत पैदा होगी बच्चों के दिलों में कि यार ये मुल्क बना कैसे, और हमारे जो लीडर थे उन्होंने क्या क्या करना चाहिए, काविशें की इस मुल्क को बनाने के लिए, हमें किस तरह इस मुल्क में रहना है और कैसे गुजारा करना है. तो मेरा ख्याल है कि उनके फरमुदात के ऊपर कोई एक सब्जेक्ट बनाया जाए और वो बच्चों को लाजमी पढ़ाया जाए हर स्कूल में पाकिस्तान के, ताकि उनके दिलों में पाकिस्तान की मोहब्बत पैदा हो.
ये आपकी सजेशन फ्रॉम योर पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू इज ऑलराइट, बट वी कैन नॉट ऐड अनदर सब्जेक्ट. हमारे पास लिटरेचर है, हमारे पास उर्दू, अंग्रेज़ी, सोशल स्टडीज़, उसके बीच में हम इनकॉर्पोरेट कर सकते हैं। और दूसरा ये जो एटलीस्ट 2 दफ़ा 6 सितंबर को और ये 25 दिसंबर को उस पे 1 हफ्ते की एक्टिविटीज़ करवा जाएं, क्योंकि जब एक्टिविटीज़ बच्चे करेंगे तो वो ज़्यादा सीखेंगे। अगर उनको मिल गया ना कोई टेक्स्ट, वो बस पढ़ा रटा और वहाँ पे ख़त्म कर दिया। इट हैज़ टू बी एक्टिविटी बेस्ड, तब वो अपने अंदर। इसी तरह जब ये इन 2 बच्चों को जब मैं ट्रेन कर रही थी तो मैंने इनको सबसे पहले तो सारी बात समझाई, बैकग्राउंड समझाया। तो ये बहुत चीज़ लाजमी है, लेट इन्वॉल्व देम, ताकि इनको फिर ओनरशिप हो जाए। अब इन बच्चों ने जो सीखा है, मुझे उम्मीद है कि they will pass it on. Do we have any of these, the copies of this
The letter?
the dialogue?
Dialogue, I will
अच्छा।
get it done, and we will send it to email with the
ये ईमेल आपको कर देंगे डायलॉग की, क्योंकि
if you have
इसमें
written
आपको
in
पता
the
चलता है। सबसे बड़ी बात है कि क्यों पाकिस्तान।
email, you can get it from
अच्छा,
us.
thank you very much, because we just have to go. I mean, remember that
You
we
did a
have to follow
fabulous job, and I am very proud of her that she is not only one woman, and I am very proud to say that she is one woman who's making a mark for Pakistan. And she's saying those words of which 𝐒𝐄𝐒 has told us that we have to do something, because every now and then we have to be remembered that those words are the golden words, that we have to follow that for our futuristic, sustainable Pakistan. So we just want to thank you. It's a great honor to stand with you even over here. Thank you so much, madam. So now, last but not the least, I would like to invite our General Secretary of the Board of Management, who is, मैं कहूँगी रूह रवां है इस क़ायद-ए-आज़म हाउस म्यूज़ियम के। आज जो मैं यहाँ खड़ी हूँ उनकी वजह से हूँ, because maybe he has seen something in me that I can work and become acquaintance with him, and it's my honor to request him to come over here to give a vote of thanks to all who make it here in this hour of the holiday, and thank you so much. I'm very proud of everyone. Sir Sadeed Malik.
Please thank these schools who came.
Yeah.
एक रह गया था, सब schools के नाम लेने हैं जो आए हैं।
Mr. Sadeed Malik, who's a Commodore and a Sitar and Imtiaz. Thank you.
Madam Amina, Madam Nasreen, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It has been a great pleasure and an honor for us to have an elite audience like today. Our Board of Management's objective is to convey what the Quaid-e-Azam's message had been. And it couldn't have been a better day than to do it on Iqbal Day, when the message of Iqbal was portrayed all over and Quaid-e-Azam got it. And we are trying to do all that, and we are trying to capture the we have degenerated, but we want to regenerate, and our objective is conveyed through the younger generation, and that is how we are trying to do. And every now and then we hold such seminars, debates, declamation contests over here, and on a bigger occasion we go outside also, but normally the audience is about 60 to 100. Today we are about 70, 75. I'm thankful to all of you for coming this Saturday morning. We have had a lengthy session, and whatever Madam has said, those are the 9 pictures in which Quaid-e-Azam's basic message has been conveyed. The rights of the woman, the role of Quran in our life, corruption, all those things are noted over there. When you go, you can read them all and convey it. I said in the beginning, we invited them to convey all that what you heard when you listened today over here. Thank you very much for coming. That And with that, we conclude today's session, and tea is served outside. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So I request all the audience to listen for 5 minutes to Madam Amina Sayed, what she has to say today. Madam.
Sorry, just 2 minutes. I won't keep you here longer. I just want to say a big thank you to Mrs. Nasreen Iqbal for her wonderful speech. As you could see, her passion and her commitment to Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah and his ideals is very, very strong. And I think it is important that it is conveyed to all of you so that you can in turn pass it on to your students. And I just want to tell you that tomorrow is the Adab Festival. It is being held at Habit on Tipu Sultan Road and Shara Faisal. And Mrs. Nasreen Iqbal will be speaking again tomorrow. This time she'll be speaking on in a panel on education. So the Adab Festival starts at 11 a.m. with a play by Khalid Anam on the environment. And it goes on the whole day with different sessions on education and Shah Latif, where Saif Samejo will also sing the Kalam of Shah Latif. And it concludes with Anwar Maqsood and again Sindhi songs by Arif Azhar. So do come tomorrow, 11 o'clock onwards at Habit, and do pass it on to your students and families and friends. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Mr. Liaqat Merchant and Mr. Ikram Sehgal, Vice Chairman of the Board of Management, for their support. And inshallah, we'll be organizing such programs in the future. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so very much, everyone. I just wanted to say a few words and then finish this thing. What is meant by unity, faith, and discipline? The document outlines the 3 golden principles given by Muhammad Ali Jinnah: unity, faith, and discipline. It defines each principle with unity meaning cooperation, faith as conviction in belief, and discipline as following rules and obedience. So if we stay with that, I guess Pakistan will be prosper, our coming generation will be sustainable. Thank you so very much. I am Iram Fawad, I'm the Executive Secretary to the BM. From the core of my heart, I thank you, and there is this refreshment